Think about it. Think about it. Think about it.
And hi, everybody, and welcome once again to High School Basketball Weekly. I'm Tim Moore, alongside my co-host Rick Bua. And Rick, as we approach the mid-season mark of this high school basketball season, we have a tremendous amount of action to review with our viewers. Hoosick and Drury girls playing, and sort of some big action in the boys North Division and the girls North Division that we're going to bring to you and cover right now. So let's get right at it, and we're going to jump into the boys action and a big event up at Hoosick Valley for Isaiah Stubbs.
Yeah, Isaiah Stubbs last week, Tim, recorded his 1,000th career point. The sharpshooting senior has had an incredible career under Coach Dave Hart and Mike Larrabee over the last 3+ years, and congratulations to Isaiah. Well, we could see it coming, and he's been the catalyst for this team for the last couple of years, if not 3 years. He's a sharpshooter. He's the true basketball player, they always said on the team, that always holds incredible athletes up there in that basketball program. But congratulations to Isaiah. Very, very worthy. So NBCTC congratulates Isaiah Stubbs, senior from Hoosick Valley, on recording his 1,000th career point.
And Hoosick Valley, Rick, they played 3 games over the past week, and they won 2 out of 3, and they stand now at 5-4.
Yeah, they started out, Tim, by defeating Mohawk Trail 49-35. Stubbs himself with 14, and Sean Kastner and Logan Davis each with 10 points. They beat Phoenix Charter, going away 70-53. It was close early, but that was about it. Stubbs again with a huge night, 34 points. That was the game that he recorded his 1,000th at home. And as we mentioned earlier, Tim, that Hoosick, I believe, had started on the road for the first 6 games. So a little bit of home cooking was right with what they needed. Sean Kastner added 13 to that game, and then they lost to Pittsfield at home recently in their first Northern Division matchup, 65-38. Stubbs, again, leading the way with 13. Kastner added 12. So that's been the 1-2 punch for Coach Hart over the last couple of weeks.
And also, Rick, I was up at the game with Phoenix Charter when Isaiah Stubbs scored his 1,000th point. And I had a chance to speak with Carson Meswar's father, who indicated Carson is going to be going back to the doctors to take a look at that knee, that injury that's kept him out of the season so far, and it's possible we're going to see him before the season's out. That'd be a big addition for Hoosick Valley.
Yeah, there was something I read in the news earlier today, Tim, that Carson was expected to be back very soon, maybe sooner than expected, as early as possibly next week, which would be nice for the Drury Hoosick first matchup up in North Adams. So we'll see, but best of luck in Carson in getting back, because he surely has been missed.
And a team, Rick, that I think is the surprise team in the Berkshire County basketball circles this year, the Mount Greylock Mounties. The boys had 3 games over the past week, and they're playing good basketball.
They really are playing under Coach Thistle some great basketball, Tim. And they had that unexpected one-sided loss up at Drury, but they rebounded really nicely, winning, as you said, 3 games since our last program, defeating Lee 63-39. Toby Fail, the senior, with 21, and Derek Paris, the sophomore, with 20. They also took a little road trip and played Murdoch, winning a very close one, 66-64 on the road. Very balanced scoring. Fail leading the way with 24. Liam Brady with 17, Paris with 15. And then they beat Southwick, 63-41, with Paris netting 30 points, Mac Waynick 13, and Toby Fail 10. So it's basically 1-2 with Fail and Paris, but with Liam Brady and Mac Waynick and a couple other kids, he's getting some nice contributions. And these kids know their roles there. And as we said on our last show, Tim, any team that can knock off PHS and Wacona, they're can be forced to be reckoned with at any given night.
No question about it. The Drury Blue Devils, Rick, they evened their record at 4-4 over the past week, and they had a couple of ball games of interest that we want to bring to you right now.
Yeah, they went over to Pioneer Valley, which has kind of been their nemesis the last couple of years. As you recall, it was Pioneer that kept them out of the finals 2 years ago in their first year in D4, but they took them on again last year at the Cage in the semifinals and finally got over the hump, got the monkey off the back. They've done really well in the regular season against Pioneer, Tim. It's just they really had battles with them
in the tournament,
in the
right?
Tournament, absolutely. And they won that game over at Pioneer Valley, 60-38. Scott McGuire led the way with 20, and sophomore Anthony Pettingill and sophomore Tim Browse each with 9. And then no shame here, losing at Taconic to, I still believe, is the best boys team in Berkshire County, regardless of their loss to Wacona. They lost 77-48 with McGuire scoring a game-high 25, and a big matchup on the 15th against Wacona up at Drury. That's going to be a real big one.
Yeah, that's a big game for the Blue Devils, who stand at 4-4. They're going to take on the Warriors at the Drury on Thursday. Actually, they're going to be taking them on tonight or tomorrow, and that's a big game for them. And again, we've commented on this many times, Rick. For Drury, of course, the Division IV team, they play in the rugged Berkshire North, and all these games, the competition that they're facing against Taconic, Pittsfield, Wacona, Hoosick Valley, this is solid competition. It's only going to make them better. Of course, you want to win those games, but there is a benefit in playing these games, even if you end up losing them.
Yeah, I think Coach Reset has asked us to stay in the North for a few years now, especially D4. I'm sure that some of the teams, the D2 and D3 teams in the North, aren't crazy about having a D4 team in there, but it will make them better down the stretch. And one way or another, Coach Reset is setting goals for his team, and in hopes of qualifying for the D4 tournament to take on another year of trying to defend. So one way or another, and it definitely will help them playing the tougher teams down the stretch.
Right. And how about a team that started off 0-3, Rick, the boys at McCann, and they are on fire now. They have won 6 straight.
Yeah, the McCann boys, they lost to Lennox. Again, no shame there. Lennox, one of the best D4 teams in Western Mass this year. Lost a very tough game in overtime to Lee at home, and then started racking off some wins. They had a perfect week. They beat Pioneer Valley Christian 67-23 in a lopsided victory. Bruce Davis led the way with 15 for the Hornets. Junior Nick LaForce with 11, and Connor Griswold off the bench with 10. And a very short-handed Hornets team went to Northampton to play Smith Volk and won that game 70-44. Tom Zimba with 15, Nick LaForce 12, and Darian Tavani 11, Connor Griswold with 10. So 4 Hornets in double figures for Coach Chris Bullitt. And then with several players still out sick, they made it 6 straight by beating St. Mary's of Westfield 66-36 with Zimba and Griswold each with 21 points. So I talked to Coach Bullitt recently, and he graduated his 6'5" center, and you play with the kids that you have, and some of these kids have really stepped up.
And we are delighted now to have with us here on High School Basketball Weekly this week the head coach of McCann Hornets, Chris Bullitt. Coach, thank you for joining High School Basketball Weekly. It's a pleasure to have you here this week.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, guys. And
we were just commenting, Coach, how although McCann got off to a bit of a slow start this year, you guys are playing some great basketball right now. You've won 6 in a row.
Yeah, we had a tough start. We really had to come together after that. But so far, the last few games here, we're on a pretty good roll. Obviously, the competition steps up a lot tonight with Mount Greylock.
Yeah, these are the teams that you play in Berkshire County, Mount Greylock League. These are quality opponents that you're facing, and it can do nothing but help your squad, I'm sure, as they prepare for their own league play, and of course, hopefully a spot in the Division IV Western Mass tournament.
Yeah, we try to get as many Berkshire teams as we can on the schedule because it definitely helps us. Our leagues, we need those games to prepare for the tournament, and every time we can get a chance to play a good opponent, we try to take it.
Coach, what a lot of folks don't realize about your team is, a lot of coaches take a look at their roster, and you had a very successful season last year, going quite a ways in the Western Mass D4 tournament. And then you're very, very hopeful of what you may have returning on that Monday after Thanksgiving, but it was a little different for you this year because you did have some kids transfer out of McCann, which is always unfortunate. But you've had some kids that have really stepped up recently to help your club out, especially with the flu bug kind of hitting your team.
Yeah, well, we had a lot of guys that wanted more playing time. We just didn't have it to give them, and now with the transfers and actually after everybody being sick, it's really helped us get a lot of guys minutes, and they've earned more minutes because of the way they've been playing. So that's pretty exciting for our team.
Coach, you're looking at your own league. What do you see as your big games in your top competition in your league?
We got Ludlow coming up tomorrow. We're not really too sure about them. We've seen a little bit of film, and Duggan's definitely like the three of us at the top of our league is the way we kind of see it.
Great. Well, Coach, we've been following McCann closely. You guys are undefeated in league play. You've won 6 in a row. Keep it going, and hopefully we're going to be talking about you guys later in the season when it comes around to tournament time.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Well, Coach, thanks for joining us here. That's head coach Chris Bulla of the McCann Hornets, and like Coach said, they look to try to find that competition. It can only help McCann as they
exactly, Tim. It's just like we talked about with Drury playing in the north, playing Wacona, PHS, Hoosick, and Taconic. So they know how tough Berkshire County is. They try to get as many games. They do play Lee, Lennox, and Greylock annually on their schedule.
Right.
Some of them home and away. So that'll make them stronger too.
Well, that brings us to our Boys Player of the Week, Rick, and a new selection for this week.
Yeah, the Boys Player of the Week is from Mount Greylock, the sophomore Derek Paris. And he had an incredible week, Tim, as you see here.
Right.
20 versus Lee, 15 versus Murdoch, and he led the scoring with 30. Derek is, he's probably 5'9", but he's got a little inside game and a great outside game. He's an outstanding shooter, and he's a scorer.
Right.
And you could see that coming last year. when he was just a ninth grader. And you knew about Toby Fail, but then they said, who's this Derek Paris kid? And he hasn't disappointed this year. So he's got that 1-2 punch we talk about, how beneficial it is for any basketball team, boys or girls, to have that nice 1-2 punch for scoring that you can rely on night in and night out.
Right, makes it very difficult to defend a high school team when they've got a couple of players that can put the ball in the basket, and Greylock has that in Toby Fail and Derek Paris. And Derek Paris, the sophomore, is our Boys Player of the Week here on High School Basketball Weekly. Changing tracks here for a second, let's get over to the girls' action, Rick. And we had a lot of action in girls. We're going to start off with the McCann girls. And this team, although they stand at 3-3, they've had some impressive performances recently.
Yeah, they have. They've traveled over to Greenfield, and Greenfield is what Bob Gettler, the AD, has explained to me, Tim, as a crossover game. There's certain games they have to play from a crossover, I think it's Franklin West and Franklin North or whatever, but there's so many different leagues for the girls,
right,
more than the boys. And because I asked him why he had to play Greenfield, it's been a D3 powerhouse now for a few years, but they went over there and really gave it their all, falling 52-44. Izzy Lacasse with 19, Grace Tyler with 9, and freshman Macy Tatro with 8. They did play without Kaylee Tatro, who's averaging almost close to double figures too. So again, some of the kids out sick, but Kathy Budai was very, very pleased with her team's effort against a very, very talented Green Wave team from Greenfield. And they did come back though nicely and beat Pioneer Valley 49-40 with Grace Towler scoring 18. Izzy Lacasse with 13. Kaylee Tatro back with the team, adding 8. So those were the 3 kids that we talked about at the beginning of the season, Tim, that were going to be Coach Budai's leading scorers. They were her leading scorers last year, and they haven't disappointed. They are 2-1 in the league and 3-3 overall, and I think they're going to be very competitive in their league, and they're going to battle. They're going to battle for that Franklin West title.
Another team, Rick, the Mount Greylock Mounties, the Lady Mounties, they're 3-5. Their record does not indicate how they played this year. And of course, they played a very difficult part of their schedule to start the season. And now they're getting more into their Southern Division play, which those games are going to be extremely important for them as everybody in the South. You're going to have some really competitive games. We talked about this. Coach Bill Robinson and I talked about this during a broadcast of the Hoosick Jury game. You're going to see some real dog fights every night in the girls' Southern Division play.
Yeah, it took a while for the Berkshire County girls to get actually in their division. So, in other words, the South played the North early, and
Right.
they took their lumps. But now it is wide open between
Yes,
Drury,
absolutely.
Greylock, Lee, and Lennox. I think only again, and I say this on every one of our shows, Tim, Mount Everett, to total rebuilding season down there this year.
Right.
So, but it's a 4-horse race in the South, and they're only going to get better. But Greylock went 1-2. The girls, they lost to Westfield and also to Lee. In the Lee game, they battled them, only lost 50-43. Emma Stevens led the way with 14, and Sierra Schwartzer with 13. And then defeated Southwick 47-36. Madison Ross, who has been playing good basketball, but not always the leading scorer, certainly led the way with a season high 27, and ninth grader Emma Galuli that we talked about a couple of weeks ago, adding 10. So they're going to be very competitive, and I don't know. I have no clue who's going to win that South. That's for sure.
I agree with you, and I think it's going to provide great basketball every night for Drury and Mount Greylock. They're going to have very, very competitive games every night, and all the games are going to have a lot of meetings. So you want to make sure you catch those if you can, because that South Division is going to be a real toss-up. Northern Berkshire Community Television, Rick, was at Hoosick Valley earlier this week to catch the rivalry game between Hoosick Valley and Drury, and unfortunately for Drury, they caught Hoosick Valley with Hoosick Valley hitting on all cylinders. Probably the best offensive game that I've seen Hoosick Valley play this year, Rick.
Yeah, they lost. It was a one-sided game, Tim, as you said, 70-21. Katie Booth led the way for Drury with 8. But they earlier in the week, they did beat Pioneer Valley 62 to 52. Kayla McGrath with 16, Allison Felix 14, Mackenzie Dobert 12, and Tatiana Ross and Tess Zoida each with 8. And then they really battled, Tim, the Taconic Braves, the undefeated Lady
Absolutely.
Braves. Took them right to the very end up at Drury, 48-43. McGrath led the way again with 15, and Katie Booth adding 8. Drury was very, very competitive with Pittsfield and Taconic.
Right.
And sometimes it's about matchups, and they just went up against a very, very red-hot Hoosick Valley Hurricanes team. So the Blue Devils are 2-6, but again, a couple years ago, I think in Coach Ian Downey's first season, they started out the same way, and then they went on a long winning streak in the South. So we'll see what happens, but I think Drury's got a real good shot for 1 or 2 in the South, as do a couple other teams.
With the win over Drury, Hoosick Valley improved to 6-2, and they were really red. They came right out of the box, very, very tough in the first quarter. They got some great shooting by Andy Canales, the junior. She drained some big three-point shots, really looked solid, squaring up. And she does have a nice shot when she squares up. She can be very difficult, as you see here, and she was on fire right off the bat here, right out of the bait, right off the bat. And of course, they got some big play also by one of their senior tri-captains, Sarah Field. Sarah Field had 9 points in the first quarter, a lot of rebounds, and some nice steals. And she really stepped her game up, and when she's hitting that outside shot, it opens it up for everyone else. And the beneficiary of that was Gabby Billets, the outstanding freshman. Gabby Billets, not only did she do yeoman's work on the backboards, she also was able to work inside, and she was able to work inside, Rick, because of that outside shooting.
Yeah, it's they work the ball so well, Tim, around, and they're looking good. And Coach Wojcik is just looking for improvement every game. And Hoosick's always been this way with their threes. You know, Coach Wojcik has always given his kids the green light to take the open threes. And it doesn't matter who it is. It's a different season with different players. But Gabby underneath, she is so strong. Just a 9th grader too.
Right.
Very, very impressive. She's going to have a great career up there.
Yeah, she really stepped it up in this game, and again, I think a lot of it was that they were able to get the ball into her in an optimum position due to the fact that they were shooting the ball so well from the perimeter. So Hoosick Valley stepped up their game in this one and pulled away with the easy win over their rival Drury. That brings us, Rick, to a Player of the Week for the girls on High School Basketball Weekly, and once again, a new player this year.
Yeah, the Girls Player of the Week is senior Sarah Field from the Hoosick Valley Hurricanes. And, you don't have to put 25, 30 points up, Tim, to be our Player of the Week. It's total contribution on the floor. She had a very, very good week. In the win over Lennox, she scored double figures with 10, and she had 13 against Drury, but played a major role in both of those. And she's a first-time recipient of this weekly award. And so congratulations to senior Sarah Field from the Hoosick Valley Hurricanes.
She certainly has been solid for Hoosick Valley this year. Another player that we've seen a little bit over the years, Rick, and we want to recognize right now as our featured player, a young lady from Greenfield.
Yeah, we do this every once in a while, Tim, when somebody hits a milestone in Western Mass. It doesn't have to be Berkshire County. But Katie Hazelton from the Green Wave of Greenfield High School recorded her 1,000th point on the 10th of January in a home game against Amherst. And, that program, Tim, you could see that coming a few years ago with Coach Hickey. He's really, really competed well against the Berkshire County teams and has done very well in Western Mass. They had that super team last year with his daughter Reagan, Hickey, and Samantha Smith, and Katie Hazelton. And Katie's she's leading the way this year again. We're going to see them as they come to Hoosick Valley High School on the 25th, Saturday, for Coaches versus Cancer. They'll be taking on Coach Ian Downey's Drury Blue Devils. We'll be there to do that game. Looking forward to seeing Katie and her teammates here.
Absolutely. It gets us now, Rick, to our rankings, and we're going to start with the girls on the D4 side, taking a look at those rankings for Division IV girls. We're on top there at 7-2, followed by Hopkins Academy. A little bit of a shake-up this week. We see a new team and in Putnam.
Yeah, Putnam's always been very, very competitive. Best known for the boys program, in Springfield, but the girls have done really, really well, even though they compete in Division IV. And also, in there, the Lee Wildcats with having a very, very good year. They could be the team to beat in the South in Berkshire County, but these are going to move around. These are subjective, as we tell our fans out there, our viewers. You don't know what it's going to look like at the very end. You may see teams in and out, but the best of our projections, that's where they should be at this present time.
Yeah, we still have a half a season to go, so those rankings are going to move a little bit as we go along. And the D4 boys side, there you see Lennox 8-2. That's a well-deserved ranking at 8-2. Rick.
Yeah, Lennox have an incredible year. They're like I said, they've won some big games. They've beaten northern teams. They've come to North Adams and knocked off Drury. They're taking care of business in the South so far, and they're very deserving. Where at 6-2, Bay State won a couple games last week. Drury's still holding tight, 4-4. Of course, playing that tough Berkshire County schedule in the north. But Coach Rissette's team will hang right in that top 5. As Sabas always does in Division III. It's kind of like the same thing.
Really based on that strength of schedule. Taking a look at the girls D3, D3 and girls, no change really here, although we do have Greenfield now in the rankings. Granby dropping out because they lost a couple games, but here we go, and you see those teams, and I think, again, we've talked a little bit about it, I think in Division III it's kind of shaping up to be a 3-horse race, and I think at the end Granby will be around in there.
Yeah, I really think so too, and Wacona looks really, really good. Of course, they lost their very opening game to PHS at home, and then they've been on a roll. They don't blow you away, but they do what they have to do to win the ball game. Coach K's got her kids playing very, very well. And of course, Hoosick Valley's going to be right there. They're going to be battling along with Taconic in the north this year. It's going to be very, very interesting. Sabas always very competitive for the girls. Hampshire, new coach this year, but same good program. And we just talked about Greenfield and how well they've done over the last couple of years. So there'll be some movement there. But I know you mentioned last week, Tim, that you're going to see Wacona and Hoosick Valley towards that top almost all season long.
I think so. D3 boys, this one is very competitive. You're taking a look at these teams, and of course, we always have this comes up every now and then, and we're looking at it right here. We got Narragansett, a team from Central Mass that kind of has to be fit into the Division 3 here. They're 7-1. We don't know a lot about them. We're going to try to get some information, but they're in the mix there with Wacona at 6-1. A team that dropped out this week was Monument Mountain. They've suffered a couple losses, but I think Monument Mountain will be around there before it's all over.
I think so too. Yeah, I think so too. Frontier's got a nice ball club, and as you said, we don't know much about Narragansett, but we talk about that every year. There's Murdoch and the Sizer. There's so many teams that the MIAA has put into Western Mass come tournament time. So we've got to give them the respect based upon the schedule that they're playing right now. So.
Right. You know, Rick, you alluded to earlier in the broadcast games that are going to be played next Saturday up at Hoosick Valley, January 25th, the Coaches versus Cancer Classic. And we want to go through that lineup of games. What a lineup it is. 7 games this year, Rick, and it kicks off at 10:30 in the morning up at Hoosick Valley. As you see, Frontier is going to take on the Lee Wildcats. That should be a great game between those two teams, followed by Mahar and Lennox at 12. And then, of course, a game that you're going to be doing, Lorna Berkshire Community Television, Greenfield Greenway, Katie Hazelton, we just talked about, will be battling the Lady Blue Devils of Drury, and you'll be on that game. And I think that'll be a good matchup as well, Rick.
I think so, too. Based upon the McCann Hornets going over to Greenfield and battling them all the way, I think this could be a very good matchup. Coach Downey has had a lot of success over the last couple of years of Coaches versus Cancer, Tim, and has done pretty well against teams from the Pioneer Valley. I think that's going to be a very competitive game, and looking forward to doing that game.
Right, and of course the 3 o'clock game, the Granby Rams, Nora Young, probably one of the top 2 or 3, maybe 5 players in Western Mass girls basketball. They take on Monument Mountain. Nora Young, a Super 7 selection by Mass Live. And that's followed by Quabog, a team from Central Massachusetts, taking on Wacona Warriors, Maria Gambaroni and that outstanding Warrior team. And that's going to be followed by the Hampshire Red Raiders taking on Greylock. And that's going to be a big game for Mount Greylock. I think that's going to be an exciting game as well, Rick.
Yeah, and Coach Jacoby has always been, his kids have always been very competitive too. And it just tells you all about Berkshire County basketball.
The 7:30 game, the nightcap, Hoosick Valley against Minnechaug. Minnechaug undefeated. That could be the game of the year. They are a tough team. Lauren Berry's back for Minnechaug. She's a Super 7 selection. They defeated Central earlier in the year, and that should be a whale of a game. Of course, you can see us here on High School Basketball Weekly every Thursday night here on Channel 1302 at 7:30. We rebroadcast on Saturday morning at 10 o'clock, and of course Sunday evening again at 7 p.m. So you want to catch us here on High School Basketball Weekly. You got 3 opportunities to see it. We got a lot of great high school action coming up this week. Make sure you support your favorite local high school basketball team.
Absolutely. And,